Downloadable designs like this are fetching anywhere from $10 to $30 on Etsy. And with thousands of potential customers purchasing designs they can edit, download, and print themselves, now is the perfect time to start making some money off your creations. Stick around and I'll show you some styles that are selling like hotcakes, and how you can create your own wonderful wall art designs. Hi, I'm Josh from Canva Design School, and as a designer myself, I love filling my walls with poster art. It provides daily inspiration for me and turns those boring bare walls into my own personal gallery space. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to use Canva to design beautiful posters you can put on your walls, or even sell. We'll cover abstract designs, quotes, info posters, nursery wall art, and more. You can even print through Canva and then sell your work in person. Before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you'll be in the loop next time we release a video like this one. Now, normally at the start of a video, we'd say something like, let's start with a template. And that's totally fine if you're just creating something for your personal walls. There are some great options here you could go with. But since we want to sell the designs we create, we'll need to make everything from scratch. Otherwise, we'd be breaching Canva's licensing agreement, and taking credit for someone else's work, that's not cool. With that said, you can still use templates for inspiration. For example, you may see a layout or a style you like, or an interesting color palette you could apply to your own design. Just make sure you start with a blank document and piece the elements together yourself. For more info on how licensing works, watch this video. It's really straightforward and helpful for anyone using Canva for commercial projects. Before we move on to the fun stuff, there's one more T&C you should know. If you're selling your design as a template or download link, it must be created for use in Canva only, meaning anyone who purchases your design will be directed to Canva to edit, download, or print the artwork. This restriction is in place to ensure royalties are paid to Canva's amazing photographers, artists, and illustrators who contribute to the pro library you use to create your unique designs. Alright, now that I've given you the spiel, we can move on to designing an array of posters. Let's start with something nice and simple, like an inspiring quote or text-based design. This type of poster is popular on Etsy and can fetch anywhere between $5 and $30. All you need to do is create a meaningful message, then nail the design. Before starting on the composition, I recommend taking the time to consider what people are going to resonate with. Do you want to make them laugh, reminisce, or ponder perhaps? I quite like the expression, just call it a day. So I'm going to use it here. Someone might say this after having a bad day, so I'm going to lift the mood by adding a thumbs up graphic. And finally, to jazz it up, I'll add a background color and a texture over the top to give it a worn out look. Textured backgrounds are brilliant because they can make a design more interesting without distracting from any text. Let me show you another example that features a textured element. I found this by searching paper texture overlay. To achieve this look, I simply added a black rectangle behind and some basic shapes to make it look like bite marks. It's that simple. I can imagine something like this hanging on the wall of a trendy cafe or the kitchen of someone who loves to bake. Alright, before we move on from quote posters, I want to show you one more design that's completely different from the first two. I realized there's a lot going on here, so let's talk through it. First, I added the text then created a grid system using lines. I used thin lines to tie in with the finer details on the page, and thicker ones to link up the heading. Then I added a photo behind and applied 2 different effects to achieve a vintage look. Notice how I've used a Z pattern as well. This really helps lead the viewer's eye through the poster. Alright, since we're still warming up, let me show you another basic design that's guaranteed to sell based on cuteness alone. I made this poster for a baby bedroom. Babies spend a lot of time staring, so make sure there's something bright and colourful for them to look at, right? This was so simple. I started with a blank poster, searched for rainbows, applied the free filter here. Found one I liked, then used the see more like this feature and dragged these ones over to the canvas. And then changed the background to a colour, like this. Oh, and the sun. A little Easter egg for a parent to point out. Easy, isn't it? You could create a series of these using different elements. What elements could you use? Let me know in the comments if something pops into your mind. Now, let's move on to creating a series of abstract pieces. I'll start by adding a solid shape like this, then create duplicates I can use to fill the entire page. I'll resize and overlap them to create an interesting pattern. Next, I want to add some shadows, but I can't do so unless I turn these shapes into images. Let me show you a trick for that. I'll select a shape, go to Edit Image and select Duotone. I'll choose a color that's similar to the original, then change the highlights and shadows, like this. By hitting Apply, the shape will rasterize and I'll be able to access the shadow tool. Now I can add a drop shadow to each shape. Alright, I'm liking this, but I think we could take it a step further. To give this design a retro look, I'm going to add a white border and some text at the bottom. What's alright? I know, how about super color? And a retro font to match. The black text looks a bit heavy on its own, so perhaps I'll add some small blocks of color to balance it out. That's much better. Once you've got one design down pat, it's easy to create a series using the same principles. Check these out. I reckon they'd look fab in a black or white frame. Come to think of it, maybe now's a good time to show you how to order framed prints through Canva. I was going to wait until the end, but I think these designs deserve the honor. Just head up here and select the page and size you want. Then add a frame. To decide on a color, or check the preview up here. Then hit continue to place the order. It's that easy, and with a happiness guarantee, you can't go wrong. Alright, we've covered quotes, nursery art, and abstract pieces. What's left? Info posters. Check out this design I created about fonts. I'm going to work backwards from the final design. You'll see that I've got a texture over the top, making it look like an old poster. Watch how plain it looks when I delete it. Now, you can see I've just got text boxes in here, each containing a different font. Underneath, I've added a little bit about the style of the font. That's what makes it informational. And finally, a little logo at the bottom to make it look official. Simple, isn't it? Now that's done, let me show you how to create a shareable link. That way you can send it directly to customers to print themselves. Go to Share, change this drop down to Anyone with the link, and make sure it's set to Can View. This allows you to copy the link and forward it onto anyone that purchases the design. And if you need to give them editing access, say to add a name to a design like this, I'd recommend creating a template link. That way, you'll be able to lock down anything you don't want changed and allow them to personalize the bits you do. And your original copy will remain untouched. To lock something, it's super simple. Select the element and hit the lock button here. This is a partial lock. That means that people could still change the word, but the position is locked. So is the font, and so is the color. If I hit the lock again, this is a full lock. That means no one can move it or change it. When you create a template, it will preserve all the locks that you've put in place. How handy is that? Now you have all the tools and tips you need to create stunning posters. I bet you can't wait to get started. So, what will you create first? Let me know in the comments which design has inspired you, along with any questions you may have about selling Canva-made products. Since you've stuck around this long, why not check out some of our other videos? And make sure you subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. I wouldn't want you to miss out on any of our upcoming clips. Happy poster selling and see you next time.